Oh, yeah. It's the spooky music. Hello, listeners. Thanks for tuning in to this episode. It's going to be a bit of a blast from the past and a glimpse to the future. I'm still Bill Sweeney, in case you were wondering. And around this time of year, that dark and spooky October Halloween time, the team down at the Wicked Theory Laboratory likes to push me to re-release our world-famous instant classic from 2016, that long ago. We call it a reading of Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, featuring my brother Bob on live musical accompaniment, myself as the narrator, and Edward O'Hare as the Raven. It's a bit of a wait for it type thing, and we hope you enjoy hearing it again. We didn't put it out last year, but this is a semi-annual thing we like to re-release and put out there for the holiday because it's spooky and weird and just a little bit goofy. And now about that future business I mentioned, the Wicked Theory podcast is returning on November 11th. Yes, that date was pushed back, but it is really happening, I promise you. It's going to be a bit different, but if you want to know a bit more about that, stick around after The Raven, where I'll give some more details. For now, settle in, get close to the fire, perhaps with a glass of absinthe or whatever Poe would drink. I don't know. And just please, enjoy The Raven. Or if you want, you could skip over it and just go right to the announcement stuff at the end. That would be fine too. I'll talk to you guys in a little bit. Enjoy this. The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. Read by Bill Sweeney. Musical accompaniment by Robert Sweeney. The Raven by Edward O'Hare. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door, "only this and nothing more." Distinctly I remember, it was in bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I tried to borrow from my books a crease of sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore, nameless here forevermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me with fantastic terrors never felt before, so that now to still the beating of my heart I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor, entreating, entrance at my chamber door, some late visitor, entreating, entrance at my chamber door, 'tis this and nothing more." Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. "Sir," said I, "or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore, but the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure I heard you. Here I opened wide the door, darkness there and nothing more. Deep into the darkness peering, long I stood there wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming, no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the darkness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word, "Lenore." This I whispered, and an echo murmured back to the world, "Lenore." Merely this and nothing more. Then unto the chamber turning, all my soul within me burning, soon I heard again a tapping somewhat louder than before. "Surely," said I, "surely that is something at the window lattice. Let me see then what the threat is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind, and nothing more." Open here the shutter, when with many a flirt and flutter, in there stepped a stately raven, of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obsequious made he, not an instant stopped or stayed he, but with mien of lord or lady, perched above my chamber door, perched upon a bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door, perched and sat, and nothing more. This ebony bird beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore. Though my crest be shorn and shaven, though, I said, art sure, no craven, ghastly grim and ancient raven, wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore, quoth the raven.
Hey, how's it going?
Much I marvel this ungainly fellow. Much I marvel this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly, though its answering little meaning, little relevancy. Though its answer little meaning, little relevancy bore. For we cannot help agreeing that no sublunary being ever yet was blessed with seeing bird above his chamber door, bird or beast upon the sculpted bust above the chamber door, with such a name as...
Freddy.
But the raven, sitting lonely on the placid bust, spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word he did outpour, nothing farther than he uttered, not a feather that he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, other friends have flown before, on the morrow he will leave me as my hopes have flown before, quoth the raven.
You okay, bud? You look kind of queasy.
Wondering at the stillness broken by reply so aptly spoken, doubtless, said I, what it utters, it is only stock and store caught from some unhappy master, whom unmercifully disaster followed fast and followed faster so, when hope he would acquire, when hope he would adjure, stern despair returned, instead of a sweet hope he dared adjure. That said answer?
You want some Tylenol?
But the raven still beguiling all my sad soul into smiling, straight I wheeled a cushioned seat in front of the bird and bust and door. Then upon the velvet sinking, I betook myself to linking fancy unto fancy, thinking what this ominous bird of yore, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of yore meant in croaking.
How about some Dimetap?
This I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing to the fowl whose fiery eyes now burned into my bosom's core. This and more I sat divining, with my head at ease reclining on the cushion's velvet lining that the lamplight gloated over, but whose velvet violet lining of the lamplight gloating over she shall press, nevermore. Then methought the air grew denser, perfumed from an unseen censer, swung by angels whose faint footfalls tinkled on the tuft floor. Wretch, I cried, thy God hath lent thee, by these angels he has sent thee. Respite, nepenthe from thy memories of Lenore. Let me quaff this kind nepenthe, and forget this lost Lenore, quoth the raven.
Flintstones chewables?
Prophet, I said, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, whether tempest sent or whether tempest tossed, thee here ashore, desolate yet all undaunted, on this desert land enchanted, on his home by horror haunted. Tell me truly, I implore, is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore, quoth the raven.
Maybe you just need a nap.
Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil. By that heaven that bends above us, by the God we both adore, tell this soul with sorrow laden, if within a distant Aden it shall clasp a sainted maiden from the angel's name, whom the angels name Lenore. Clasp a rare and radiant maiden, who the angels name Lenore. Quoth the raven.
I hear Match.com is great these days.
Be that word our sign of parting, bird or fiend, I shrieked on starting. Get thee back into tempest, and into the night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black plume as a token of that lie thy soul hath spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken. Quit thy bust above my door. Take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy form from off my door, quoth the raven.
Dude, I already paid Airbnb, and they don't give refunds, so I think I'm going to be here a while.
And the raven, never flitting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door, and his eyes have all the seeming of a demon that is dreaming, and the lamplight over him streaming throws his shadow on the floor, and my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore. This has been Wicked Theory Theater. This was a reading from The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. I'm Bill Sweeney. Robert Sweeney on instrumental accompaniment, and featuring Edward O'Hare as the Raven. Woo! Really didn't know how that was going to go. Oh my, how spooky and scary was that? Gosh, don't it just give you the shivers? Well, I'm glad you survived the horror so that you can hear this part. Yeah, the show is going to return November 11th. That's a Monday. We're still going to release on Mondays. The show is going to be bi-weekly. It's not going to record live. So yes, things will be different. The promo, the tagline we're using says it all, really. New format, same rules, more fun. And what that means is it means one-on-one conversations. I know you're thinking, ugh, been there, done that. Me too. I want it to be different than those shows, funnier than those shows. Nerdiness may not be on display as much as it used to be. But that's not some rule or goal, you know. It might happen. The same old rules apply. No sports, no politics, no math. And the whole point is basically to generate laughter, you know, to be funny for me, for the guest, and for you, the listener. So the evolution of the show continues. I hope you'll join me and bear witness to the great experiment that is my podcasting career. I hope that you'll get involved with some of the aspects that it might call for you to submit content to help out. I greatly appreciate your support and commitment through this transition. Without listeners like you, it's all basically pointless. So please stay subscribed and just give the new format a chance. Give it a few episodes before making too harsh of judgments. And just let me know what you think about that before we get to it. You know, reach out to me as always. I'm on Twitter at Wicked Theory, Instagram at Wicked_Theory. Support me on Patreon, patreon.com/Wicked Theory. And other than that, stay tuned. Thank you for listening, and look for me again on November 11th.